Welcome, welcome, my dear friends from across the world. Gather around, for I bring you the ancient stories of our ancestors, mysteries, lessons, and the wisdom of the past. These stories have been whispered by the fireside for centuries, passed from elder to child. Today, they come alive once more. Before we begin, tell me, where are you watching from? Type your country in the chat. Have you ever heard an African folktale before? Which one is your favorite? Stay with me till the end, because the last story is the most mysterious of them all. Story, the Talking Skull. Long ago, in a small village hidden between vast grasslands and deep forests, there lived a man who loved to talk. He talked in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night. He talked when he worked and when he rested. But the problem was, not once did he ever listen. He never heard the wisdom of the elders, nor the warnings of his friends. One day, in his usual chatter, he boasted loudly in the village square, "I fear nothing. There is no mystery in this world that can scare me." The old men shook their heads. The women whispered among themselves. Even the children giggled, knowing that such words were dangerous. Then one elder spoke, "If you are truly fearless, go deep into the forbidden forest. But beware, young man. Many who enter never return." The man laughed. "A forest? What could possibly frighten me in a forest?" And so, ignoring all warnings, he set out on his journey. The trees in this forest were ancient, their thick branches twisting like the arms of unseen creatures. The air was still, too still. No birds sang, no leaves rustled, and the silence felt heavy. As he walked deeper, the wind whispered through the trees, forming words he could not quite understand. But still he went on. Then, at the foot of an enormous baobab tree, he saw it. A skull. A human skull, half buried in the dust, staring up at him with empty sockets. He bent down, poked it with a stick, and laughed. What a strange thing to find. A useless, lifeless skull lying in the dirt. But then, in the silence of the forest, the skull spoke. "Why do you disturb my rest?" The man froze. His heart pounded like a drum. The air turned cold. But as fear gripped him, something else took over. His hunger for attention. A talking skull? No one will believe me. I must tell the village, he thought. He turned and ran, faster than he had ever run before. Breathless, he reached the village and shouted, "I have found a talking skull. It speaks just like you and me." The people gathered, curious but skeptical. "A talking skull?" the chief asked, frowning. "Do not waste our time with foolish stories." "But it is true," the man insisted. "Come with me, and I will prove it." After much hesitation, the chief ordered his warriors to follow the man back to the forest. The journey back was tense. The villagers walked in silence, the man leading the way, his heart pounding. Finally, they reached the ancient baobab tree, but the skull lay silent. The man nudged it with his foot. "Speak," he commanded. "Silence. Say something," he cried, but the skull remained lifeless. The chief's eyes darkened. "You have wasted our time. Lying is a serious offense." The warriors grabbed the man. He struggled, pleaded, but the chief gave the order, "Take him away." And so his fate was sealed. As the sun set, the warriors did what was necessary. The man's final cries echoed through the trees. The village left, leaving nothing behind but the silence of the forest. For a long time, the skull remained still. But as the moon rose high in the sky, it spoke once more. "Now you see why I am here." And then, the forest swallowed the silence once again. Performing arts moral of the story: some things are better left unsaid. Listening is just as important as speaking. Those who boast without wisdom often meet a tragic fate. As we move to the next story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment where you are watching us from. Thank you. This next story is a beautiful, deep African folktale about love, patience, and the power of destiny. It teaches that true love is not about selfish desire but about sacrifice and faith. The story begins. Long ago, in the kingdom of Nyamkai, there was a prophecy spoken by the village seer. Under the full moon, a love as deep as the river shall be tested. If the heart is pure, it shall endure forever. But if selfishness prevails, love will turn to dust. The people whispered about it, but no one knew what it truly meant, until a young warrior named Kweku and a maiden named Abina met beneath the great baobab tree. Kweku was brave and noble, a warrior whose strength was known throughout the land. Abina was gentle and wise, her beauty compared to the golden sunrise. They fell in love as if their souls had known each other before. They would meet under the moonlit sky, promising to love each other until the rivers ran dry and the sun refused to rise. But love is not without trials. One day, the chief's daughter, Nana, saw Kweku and wanted him for herself. She told her father, the king, who summoned Kweku and said, "If you marry my daughter, you will become the next king. Reject her, and you will be exiled forever." Kweku hesitated. He loved Abina, but the temptation of power and comfort was strong. Abina, hearing of this, wept beneath the baobab tree, praying for Kweku to remain faithful. Would love prevail or fade into dust? On the day of the decision, Kweku stood before the king and declared, "A throne without love is an empty seat. I choose Abina." The village gasped. The king, furious, banished Kweku forever, saying, "If you will not rule, then you shall wander, never to return." Abina ran to Kweku, tears in her eyes. "I will wait for you, no matter how long it takes." And so, Kweku left the village, disappearing into the unknown. Seasons passed. Years became decades. Abina never married, never stopped believing in Kweku's return. Every full moon, she waited beneath the baobab tree, holding onto the promise of their love. The villagers called her foolish, but she remained faithful. Meanwhile, Kweku faced trials in distant lands, famine, storms, wars, but his heart never forgot the woman who waited for him. 30 years later, an old traveler arrived in Nyamkai. His eyes held stories of battles and hardship, but when he looked at the great baobab tree, his heart knew the way home. It was Kweku. Under the same full moon where they once made their promise, Abina stood, her hair now silver, but her love unchanged. Kweku fell to his knees, tears falling. "I have returned, my love." And just as the prophecy had spoken, under the full moon, a love as deep as the river shall be tested. If the heart is pure, it shall endure forever. Their love had passed the test of time, proving that true love is patient, faithful, and unbreakable. The people of Nyamkai wept at their reunion, and the king, now old, gave them his blessing, for he had seen the power of a love that never fades. Moral of the story: 1. True love is patient and never seeks shortcuts. 2. Love tested by time and trials becomes stronger. 3. A person's worth is measured by their faithfulness, not wealth or power. What did you learn from the story? Let me know in the comment section. Let's move to our next story. The Spirit Bride, A Man Marries a Ghost, open book story. In a small village near a great river, a lonely young man named Kwame often walked along the water's edge, dreaming of love. One evening, as the moon cast a silver glow upon the river, he saw a beautiful woman standing on the shore. She had long, flowing hair, dark, enchanting eyes, and a smile that made his heart race. "Who are you?" Kwame asked. "I am Ebony," the woman said softly. "I have been waiting for someone like you." Kwame was instantly captivated. They talked for hours, and before long, Ebony agreed to be his wife. She had only one request: he must never follow her when she returned home at night. For months, they lived happily together. Ebony would always disappear at night and return in the morning. But Kwame's curiosity grew. Where did she go? One night, he secretly followed her. Ebony walked to the river, stepped onto the water, and vanished beneath the surface. Terrified, Kwame ran to the village elder, who listened carefully before gasping. "You fool! Ebony is not of this world. She belongs to the spirits of the river." Kwame rushed back to the river, calling her name. Suddenly, the water churned, and Ebony rose, her once beautiful face now hollow and skeletal. "You have broken your promise, Kwame." With that, she pulled him into the river, and neither were seen again. Lightbulb moral lessons. Some secrets should remain undiscovered. Now let me know how you are enjoying these stories so far and what you've learned from them. Now let's go to the next story. Why the tortoise's shell is cracked. A trickster's greed backfires. Storyline. Tortoise was greedy and clever. When the birds invited him to a feast in the sky, he tricked them into giving him wings. Once in the sky, he told the birds, "My new name is all of you. So when the host says, 'This food is for all of you,' I shall eat first." And so he ate everything while the birds watched. Furious, the birds took back their feathers. Tortoise had no way down. He called to his wife, "Lay soft things on the ground." But angry at his greed, she placed rocks instead. Tortoise fell and shattered his shell. Lightbulb moral lesson. Greed will always lead to downfall. I'm happy you followed me to this far, that I know you are enjoying all my thrilling African folktale stories. Let's move to the final short story. The Hyena and the Magic Rock. Greed leads to disaster. Storyline. A hyena found a magic rock that produced food when spoken to. But the rock warned, "Speak the words only once per day." Hyena was greedy. He kept demanding more food until the rock swallowed him whole. Lightbulb moral lesson. Greedy hearts are never satisfied, and they pay the price. This brings us to the end of today's storytelling moment. Thank you for joining me. Glad you had a nice time. Which story was your favorite? What lesson did you learn? Kindly let us know in the comment section. I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for wonderful African folktale stories full of moral lessons. May wisdom guide your path until we meet again. Goodbye.